The winning blueprint presents.
Draft Zone.
Welcome to the Draft Zone. I'm your host, Lou. Thank you for joining me. This is the 2013 NFL Draft Wrap-Up Series. And what we aim to do with this particular program is break down a 2013 NFL Draft of every single team in the National Football League. We'll look at each and every pick made by X said team. In this case, we're talking about the Miami Dolphins. Break their draft down, give every single draft pick a score. And we're not just looking at the player taken itself. We're looking at the player taken, the pick, when it was made, how it was made, how this player can impact this team in the 2013 season and possibly moving forward. So a lot of different factors go into play when given a grade. We take those grades given to each and every single pick, average them up, get an aggregate score for that team in question. We're talking about the Miami Dolphins today. So we'll get an aggregate score for the Dolphins, and then we'll move on from there. So we'll break it down using our baseball grading scale: single, double, triple, home run. There are no strikeouts here in the draft wrap-up series, as we can never tell if a team really reached for a player or not, because each team in the National Football League has a different grade on every player in this draft. And so on one football team's board, this player might be a second-round selection. Another team might not have this player slated to go until the 5th round. So you can never tell if a team reached for a player or not. Again, if it's your guy, go get your guy. And we'll be talking about getting your guy here in a second with the Miami Dolphins. But there are no strikeouts here. And we can't tell if these players are going to be good or not, if they're going to pan out in the league, or are they going to fizzle out. Doesn't matter. There are no strikeouts here in the draft wrap-up. So I've got my draft board behind me so we can break down these Dolphins. I've also got a very instrumental tool, my handy-dandy pointer. Let's get to the board and figure some things out for the Miami Dolphins and their 2013 NFL Draft. So you look at the Dolphins, and I look at the needs. Defensive line is a need for the Dolphins. I think that they have a really good defensive line, but you can never have enough on your defensive line. Never. And Cameron Wake gets pressure on the quarterback. You need that guy opposite of him to get pressure on the quarterback. It'd be nice to put someone on the other side of Cameron Wake to get pressure on the quarterback. I love Randy Starks down there in the middle of your defense. I think you've got a really good defensive line, but it'd be nice to get another pass rushing threat on the other side of Cameron Wake. So I look at defensive line, look at offensive line. Of course, you lose Jake Long. There's a glaring need at the tackle position. Sure, you go out and you address it by getting a guy like Tyson Clabo in free agency, but it's a one-year deal. So in effect, it's a Band-Aid solution. You're not looking for Clabo to be the long-term solution. You're looking for him to come in and be a solid Band-Aid, to come in and fix the problem for 1 year until you can get a long-term solution in there. I think offensive line is an issue as well. Also in the interior, I don't think your guard situation is what you want it to be either. So cornerback, man, remember when you had Vontae Davis and Sean Smith and they looked like a couple of young budding stars at the cornerback position? You looked like you had a tandem on your hands that could be one of the best in the league for the next 5 or 6 seasons. Man, does that seem a long time ago or what? Neither one of them are there anymore. You need cornerback help, so that's definitely a need for the Dolphins in this draft. You look at linebacker, and you really address the linebacker position in free agency. But in letting guys go like Carlos Dansby and Kevin Burnett and some of the other guys that are no longer on this roster, you kind of ate into your depth as well. And you can't pay everybody. You need cheap labor. You come to the draft to get that. So I think linebacker is a need for you as well. You look at tight end, and Anthony Fasano was solid for you. He's no longer there, but he was solid. He wasn't great. He did nothing extremely well. He did everything solid. You could use a guy that could come in and do everything great. I don't think you have that guy on your roster. I don't think you're going to get that guy in the draft. I think you're looking to have guys have specialized roles at the tight end position. One guy's going to be primarily a blocker. Another guy's going to be your pass catching threat. And then you might have a guy that does a little bit of both. But again, you need a tight end on your roster as well. So let's look at this board. You have the round, the pick, the players, the position, the school. Let's go ahead and jump into the Dolphins draft. We start with the first round. Third pick overall, defensive end out of Oregon, Dion Jordan. This pick was from the Oakland Raiders. Dolphins held on to the 12th overall selection in this draft when it first started. And as the Raiders were on the clock at 3, I had a feeling someone was coming up because 2 tackles were gone. Joker went second to the Jaguars. Fisher went first to the Kansas City Chiefs. And so I'm thinking someone's coming up to 3 to get this pick off of the Raiders to come get Lane Johnson. That was, to me, a formality. Someone's coming up. The Raiders' phone will ring at some point. And with about 2 minutes left, with that third pick on the table, the Raiders' phone rang. They picked it up. The Dolphins were on the other end. And they came up, and everyone, including myself, assumed that the commissioner was going to come to the podium and say, there was a trade made. Dolphins now hold the third pick. And with that third selection, the Miami Dolphins select. And I thought he was going to say Lane Johnson, tackle out of Oklahoma. But what he said sent shockwaves through the first round of the NFL draft. He said Dion Jordan, defensive end out of Oregon. Whoa! Takes balls to make a move like that. Because we all know the Dolphins could use a tackle. And we all heard that the Dolphins were not enamored with Lane Johnson like the rest of us were. Well, I can't speak for you guys. I can speak for myself. I was enamored with Lane Johnson. And a lot of teams around the league were enamored with Lane Johnson. But apparently the Dolphins, he didn't tickle their fancy. So, okay. But Dion Jordan, who I think has the greatest potential from the defensive side of football to make the biggest impact of any player in this draft from the defensive side of football, is going to the Dolphins? Wow. Okay. Jeff Ireland showing some big brass ones going up and making a move like that. So I can appreciate that from Jeff Ireland going up and getting his guy. And the thing I loved about the Dolphins in this draft was you had flexibility. You had 5 selections within the first 90 picks. So there was some room to do some maneuvering if you wanted to. You had 2 second rounders, 2 third rounders, and you had a first rounder at 12. And so I said to the Dolphins before this draft started, if you need to go and get a guy that you feel is your guy, go and get him. Don't hesitate. You have the assets necessary to do so. And I think Jeff Ireland is really at the crossroads of his tenure in Miami as your GM. He has to get it done. And I think this draft kind of reflects that, yeah, I better start making some power moves. This whole offseason has been reflective of Jeff Ireland realizing, hey, the heat is on. The heat is on. And he's got to produce. And so you go out and you spend money like crazy in free agency. You get Mike Wallace. You go out and get L.A.B. You go out and get another linebacker in the form of Phillip Wheeler. And so you went out and spent money. You get Dustin Keller as a tight end option for your young quarterback in Ryan Tannehill. He's spending money, and he goes in the draft, and he makes a shrewd move, a calculated risk, but one that I think can pay off huge dividends for a 6'6", 250-pound, wiry defensive end in the mold of a Aldon Smith. This guy still has some work to do at the defensive end position because at Oregon, they asked him to be an athlete. They didn't ask him to stick his hand in the ground and consistently go after the quarterback, which I think if he could have, and if they would have asked him to do that, we're talking about a guy that probably would have got 18 sacks in college. But instead, they asked him to drop into coverage. They asked him to be a jack of all trades out there at that linebacker position in their defense. And so now I think the Dolphins are going to really make it simple for him. Hey, stick your hand in the ground. Go after the quarterback. And of course, in certain instances, they're going to have him drop into coverage because he's so athletic, he can do that. But for the most part, they're going to turn this monster loose named Dion Jordan. And I gush when I talk about Deion Jordan because I see all of the freakiness that exists with this guy. We're talking 6'6", freakishly long arms. His arms are like Inspector Gadget. Go Gadget arm. And it just extends all the way out here. And so he's going to get his hands on the tackle before the tackle can get his hands on him. And if he can win those battles when he's hand fighting with tackles, this guy's going to be dangerous. If he learns all the moves necessary to be a complete menace, and honestly, you only need about 2 or 3 moves. You need a go-to move and you need a counter. If he can develop that, heck, if he can get a third move, this guy would be insane. Because if this guy's speed rush, which I know is going to be off the charts, and then he can get a counter off of that, a hard outside, back inside, or a rip, or a spin move off of it, look out. The NFL is going to be in some trouble. Guys like Tom Brady will not be able to sleep at night when they have the Dolphins coming up on that Sunday because Deion Jordan's on one side, Cameron Wake's on the other. This thing is going to get really ugly, and I love Deion Jordan. He's an explosive athlete that's extremely long and has more room to build more muscle on his frame. So he's going to get stronger, which means that bull rush is going to be even more efficient. And look, if he can use his leverage, learn how to get underneath the path, because this guy's 6'6". So he has to learn how to get under the pads of these offensive tackles. If he can do that, Dolphins find ways to run him inside with twists and stunts and get him free. Look out. Deion Jordan could be a double-digit sack getter in this league immediately. I love the pick. And you know what I'm about to do. So with the third overall selection in the first round of the 2013 NFL Draft, the Miami Dolphins trade up from 12 with the Oakland Raiders to select defensive end out of Oregon, Deion Jordan. You can put it on the board, Dolphins. It is, without a doubt, a home run for the Miami Dolphins in the first round. Hit it a long way. Watch it fly. Wow, that one traveled a long way. But that's the kind of potential you got in Deion Jordan. It's a home run in the first round for the Dolphins. So we go to the second round, 54th overall selection, cornerback out of Boise State. This pick is from the Indianapolis Colts, Jamar Taylor. Here's a guy with a lot of upside. We're talking about a 5'11" corner, maybe 6 feet. Is very fast. We're talking about a late 4.3, early 4.4 guy. Can really run. Isn't afraid to tackle. Can come up and do some things in the run game for you as well. Isn't as physical as you would like him to be in terms of shedding blockers and getting to ball carriers. But if he's not blocked or if he comes unblocked, he's a guy that isn't afraid to stick his face mask in there and do some things. I think what sold him for a lot of teams is the athleticism and the ability to make plays on the football. This is a guy that isn't afraid to stretch out away from his frame to catch the football, make plays on the ball. He's looking for the football, and he can be nosy at times. He's an aggressive corner that will take chances. And when you're aggressive, it can be a gift and a curse. Because when you're aggressive, hey, if they run that speed out and you guess right, guess what? You can jump it and pick it off and go the other way. But if that speed out turns into an out and up, and you jump the speed out, guess what? You've just been had. You've just been had. And they're going up the sideline for 67 yards and a touchdown. And Jamar Taylor is that guy that wants to jump that speed out. And sometimes he has to be more disciplined and stay at home, watch the route. It's okay to give up a 5-yard out sometimes versus giving up that 67-yard touchdown on that out and up. And so he's going to have to learn how to be disciplined at the next level. But everything is there you're looking for in a corner that can start out wide for you. He's got the athleticism, the ball skills. He's looking for the football, which is one of the biggest criteria for me for a corner out wide. Look for the football, please. Don't be grabby. Don't be one of those guys that are watching the receiver and not looking for the football, face guarding. Look for the football so you can try to make a play on it. Jamar Taylor does that. He's not afraid to tackle. You know how I feel about that. I don't care how you get him down. Just get him down. He's one of those guys that'll get you down. I love Jamar Taylor. I love this pick. It's a triple for me. In the second round, pick 54, cornerback out of Boise State from Indy. And so The Dolphins traded away one of their second rounders to the Raiders in conjunction with that first rounder that they had to go up to 3 to get Deion Jordan. So that's fine. You got assets, use them. And that's what the Dolphins did. They got Deion Jordan. They get Jamar Taylor. They've had a solid draft to this point in the first 2 rounds. So let's go to the needs board now. We've had 2 picks, both of them, to me, meeting a need right away. You get a defensive lineman, a guy that I think is very necessary, and I didn't see it coming, but I think it's a very welcome addition to this Dolphins team in Deion Jordan at the defensive end, so that's a defensive lineman. You look at your second-round selection, Jamar Taylor, he's a cornerback, and I think that's definitely a position of need. You did get a guy like Grimes in free agency, but again, that's a 1-year deal, and Brent Grimes is 30 years old, and you need some young, fresh legs out there at the cornerback position. That's a great move for the Dolphins. We go on to the 3rd round. 77th overall selection, offensive tackle out of Tennessee, Dallas Thomas. And what you'll find in this draft is that the Dolphins did a lot of moving and shaking. And so this is the only pick in the draft that, when the draft was commenced, belonged to the Dolphins because of belonging to the Dolphins. Every one of these other picks are either compensatory picks given to them by the league, or they got it from another football team. So Jeff Ireland making moves to make sure that the Dolphins can fill out their draft board. And so Dallas Thomas, tackle out of Tennessee. Look, he's drafted as a tackle. He projects in the NFL as a guard. And he played both left and right tackle at Tennessee, as well as guard at Tennessee. And so this guy can play anywhere you need him to on the offensive line with the exception of center. And that kind of versatility alone gives this guy extreme value here in the 3rd round. So Dallas Thomas can do a lot for you at the offensive line position. I tell you what, though. To me, I don't think you even want to experiment with this guy at the tackle position if it's not necessary. I think if you have to, and if you feel like you need to, he can go out to right tackle. He can't play left tackle in this league. He's not explosive enough from a quickness standpoint. He's athletic enough, and I think that he has no problem getting to the second level and doing all of those things. But the one thing you can't have in this league is heavy feet. And sometimes, I don't know if it's just a lack of awareness or whatever, but he didn't get off the ball fast enough for me. There's times when the ball is snapped, and as an offensive lineman, if you want to be elite in this league, left or right tackle, doesn't matter. As soon as that ball is snapped, you got to be kick-stepping. You got to get out of that stance. And sometimes Dallas Thomas is just standing there like, are we going to snap the ball? Hey, the ball's already been snapped, buddy. And guess what? The guy you're supposed to be blocking already got a step on you. And so, being that he's a big guy, we're talking about a 6'5", 6'6" tackle. He's got long enough arms. So, sometimes when he's beat, he can still recover. The athleticism is enough that when he's beaten, he can still recover. But you don't want to put yourself in precarious situations like that too often, especially against NFL caliber defensive end. Because if you get an elite pass rusher, for instance, Chandler Jones, a guy that he's going to see 2 times a year if he's playing the tackle position for the New England Patriots, is a long, lanky, athletic guy. If he's beaten off the snap by Chandler Jones, chances are he's not going to be able to recover. Chandler Jones is getting to Ryan Tannehill. You don't want that. So he's a guy that I think you need to kick inside because a lot of times it just takes him too long to get into that kick step, slide out, and make sure that this guy isn't beating him to the outside. At guard, though, I think he's a perfect fit. He's 6'6", he's 310 pounds or so, athletic enough to block his man and get down, seal, and get to the second level or kick out on some pulling and get out there and be a guy that can lead the way on a pulling play. I like Dallas Thomas a lot. I think he brings a lot of value because of all the positions that he can't play. Look, the only position I think he can't play in the National Football League is left tackle. If you need a right tackle and you feel the need to put this guy in at tackle, put him at right tackle. But I think you drafted him to be a guard. His last year at Tennessee, he played guard, so I think the Volunteers kind of figured that out as well. So I think he's a guard. That's what you need to use him for. I think that's what the Dolphins ultimately are going to use him for, and I think it's a great pick. I think he's a guy that I wouldn't be surprised is starting for you day one. If not starting day one, at some point in the 2013 season, wouldn't be surprised to see this guy getting meaningful snaps for the Miami Dolphins. To me, it's a triple for Dallas Thomas, offensive tackle out of Tennessee, in the third round with the 77th overall selection. triple, it's a good pick. I think he's a versatile lineman that's going to give you depth along your offensive line. You look at your second, third round pick, and remember you had 5 picks. You traded one of them away to the Raiders, so still got a lot of good picks and a lot of good value in the first round. 93rd overall selection from the San Francisco 49ers. You get the cornerback out of Utah State, Will Davis. So again, here we go, going back to the corner market, trying to fill out our secondary. If you are the Miami Dolphins, Will Davis, to me, very raw prospect here. You're getting a guy that was introduced to football, played it for the first time his senior year in high school. So that tells you right there that not a lot of experience. Had to go to a small JUCO just to figure out how to play the position well enough so that he could transfer to a college like Utah State and get on the field and show what he can do. He's a very small guy, not in size. He's 5'11". I'm talking about in stature and build. And we're talking about a 190-pound corner. And that probably is soaking wet, and I'm probably being generous. This is a really skinny guy. Needs to fill out his frame more because at the next level, he's going to be manhandled by physical receivers if he doesn't. The thing I love about Will Davis is he's not afraid to compete. Despite the small stature, this is a guy that's willing and able to come up and tackle. And you know how I feel about that. He's a guy that's, both of your corners aren't afraid to tackle. And he's a guy that will come up and tackle. The only issue is if you get a physical receiver out there that has blocking prowess, he's not getting off that block. I just told you this guy's light in the pants. So if you get a receiver with sticky hands that can block, he'll drive this guy 5 or 6 yards out of the play. So he needs to not be touched. He needs to find a way to get off of blocks so he can come up and make tackles. In open field, he doesn't have a problem tackling, and he doesn't have problems making plays on the football. He's a guy that's, much like Jamar Taylor, very, very greedy. And he's looking for the ball. He's nosy. I don't have a problem with that. I love corners that look for the football. But be picky. Pick your spots. You can't be greedy all the time. And much like Jamar Taylor, he's a guy that will try to jump that speed out, and that out turns into an out and up, and he's beaten down the sideline. So you got to be careful with guys like this. Both of these guys can be coached up. And so Will Davis, to me, if he can put on a few pounds, add some muscle, learn how to pick and choose his spots and when to gamble and go for the big play, you got yourself another really good corner here in the third round. Was this a little early for Davis? Maybe. But again, the Dolphins see the upside. And I think that's what got him selected in the third round, the upside. And I think that Will Davis might be able to pan out for you. I've got questions. Can he fill out his frame? Will the game come more naturally to him? Again, he's very young, doesn't have a lot of experience. Can they teach him not to be a gambler? He's a guy that will bet it all in the name of making a play. Can he learn to scale that back? We'll see. To me, it's a double just because I don't know what I'm getting out of this guy. He's very raw. He's very young. He's very skinny. There's a lot of things I got to figure out about this guy. And he can be blocked in the run game. So a 17-yard game can turn into a 70-yard game because this guy can't get off of his block. And he's one of the last lines of defense over there at the cornerback position if a run breaks to the outside. So that scares me a little bit as well. But he's got all the intangibles. He's not afraid. He's willing to compete. And I love that. It's a double for Will Davis in the third round. 93rd overall selection, cornerback out of Utah State. So we go back to the needs board. You get another cornerback in the form of Will Davis. Then you get an offensive lineman in Dallas Thomas. So Dolphins meeting some needs early on in this draft. So now as we go on to the fourth round, this selection from the Cleveland Browns, like I told you, you don't have any picks that were yours coming into this draft. You just went out and made a lot of moves, whether it was in the past that netted you these picks for this draft or actually during this draft moving around with some of these different teams. But either way, this pick is from the Cleveland Browns. 104th overall selection in the fourth round, linebacker out of Florida, Jelani Jenkins. And what we'll find as we go through this draft is that the Dolphins weren't afraid to sneak around and sniff around their backyard, getting players from the University of Florida, a school that's not too far away from this Dolphins franchise. And so Jelani Jenkins is the selection in the fourth round, and he's the prototypical weak side will linebacker in this league. I mean, there's not another position at linebacker that this guy can play. He can't play inside. He's not physical enough, not strong enough at the point of attack. He can't play at the strong side. Again, you got to be willing to set the edge, stand up at the point of attack. This guy's 245 pounds. So a lot of that isn't going to happen with him at either the strong side or the middle linebacker. He's a weak side linebacker. He's got coverage skills. He can run. He can turn his hips. He's very fluid. Can run with backs. Can run with tight ends. So there's value here in Jelani Jenkins from a pass coverage standpoint. But he's a guy that needs to be clean. He needs to be kept clean so that he can run around and make plays. He's a sideline-to-sideline type of linebacker. But he needs some more work because he's got to learn how to shed blockers. He's got to learn how to be more instinctive and more aggressive when it comes to the run game. Now, you're going to get special teams value here. Anytime you get a linebacker that can run, he's a guy that you definitely want in your special teams unit. Jelani Jenkins is going to fill up your special teams rosters. He's going to give you some value there as well. And as he continues to get better as a linebacker, he continues to hone in and focus in on his craft and get better. He's a guy that down the road might be able to start for you on his football team. But as of right now, not sure that you want him starting for you at the linebacker position. But if you're the Dolphins, you like what you see here. And so we'll see how Jelani Jenkins progresses as a linebacker over time. But he's going to give you some special teams depth right now, right away. He's coming in. He's playing every single special teams. He's going to excel at it. This guy might sneak onto the field in passing situations because you know that he's a guy that is comfortable in space. So I like the pick. I think it's a solid move by the Dolphins, getting more depth along this linebacking corps. It's a double for me for the linebacker out of Florida, Jelani Jenkins, in the 4th round. We go to a second 4th round selection, this time from the New York Jets. 106 picks, so 2 picks later from your Jelani Jenkins selection, you select tight end out of Michigan State, Deion Sims. To me, this is a throwback tight end. These are dinosaurs. These guys are rare. They don't make them like this anymore. The NFL is moving toward this hybrid tight end type of look where guys are 6'2", 6'3", 240 pounds, running 4.5 40s, and can get in and out of their breaks much like a receiver, causing mismatch nightmares for linebackers and safeties around the league. That's not what Deion Sims is doing. Deion Sims is a 6'5", 6'6", 265-pound tight end. They don't make them like that anymore. For the most part, these guys, I won't say they're being phased out of the league because every team has one of these guys on their team. They're just not catching the football. These are the guys they put in 2 tight end sets, 3 tight end sets when they're looking to pound and smash mouth the team. You put one of these guys in, and you know they're going to get up the field, they're going to block, they're going to set that edge, they're going to seal it off and allow that ball carrier to get to the outside. Deion Sims does that. But where he differs from many of these blocking tight ends around the league is that this guy can actually catch the ball. He's got soft hands. He knows how to use his body. Much like a basketball player, he boxes guys out with that 6'5", 265-pound frame, so he gives the quarterback an inviting target to throw the football to. Always nice when you turn up the field and he turns around and you look up as a quarterback and he's the third option. You look to the slant, it's not there. You look to the out, it's not there. And then you look to your third option and you got a big 6'5" tight end like this waiting for the football. And he's wide open, or at least he's got a defender on his back so you've got space to throw the football to. Isn't that nice? All quarterbacks love to have that option. Deion Sims is going to give you that option. And so I think it's a great move by the Dolphins to get a guy like Deion Sims because, frankly, I think you're really disappointed with Michael Ignu at this point. So he's going to be the new Michael Ignu is Deion Sims. I like the selection. I think he's a guy that he's not fast. He's a 4.7, 5.40 guy. So he's not going to blow you away with speed. He's one of these guys that builds up speed, though. If he catches a 5-yard pass, makes a guy miss, and gets a full head of steam for 10 yards, all of a sudden that 4.7, 5.40 turns into a 4.6 40. So if he gets a head of steam, he's a tough guy to bring down and gets faster as he runs longer. So Deion Sims gives you some value here because not only can he block, the guy can catch the football too. Very soft hands, doesn't have a problem catching the football. This is a really solid selection in the 4th round. It's another double for me. Tight end out of Michigan State, Deion Sims in the 4th round. Great selection by the Dolphins, giving them another option for Ryan Tannehill to feel comfortable throwing the ball to. You look at the 5th round now, pick 164 from the San Francisco 49ers, running back out of Florida, Mike Gillespie. And look, we're back in Florida again. And I told you the Dolphins made it a habit of selecting guys that they were comfortable selecting out of the University of Florida. This time, Gillespie is the pick. And he's a guy that I think fits in with this backfield because I got questions about this Dolphins backfield. And I struggled with deciding if this was a need or not at the running back position. You don't have Reggie Bush anymore. You've got Daniel Thomas and you've got Lamar Thomas back there. And I'm not sure if either one of those guys is ready to assume the role of primary ball carrier. I think you like Lamar Miller a lot. He averaged over 4 or 5 yards to carry last year. So you feel comfortable putting him in there. Each of your backs has a role that they're supposed to be designated as. And so this is my question, though. Are these backs actually going to do the job that they're set out to do? You look at Lamar Miller. Excuse me, I think I called him Lamar Thomas earlier. I'm thinking of one of your older backs. Lamar Miller. You look at Lamar Miller, and he's supposed to be the home run threat, the guy that can stick his foot in the ground, make a cut, and go. And flash that 4.4 40 speed that he had at Miami. Haven't really seen it yet. So he's a home run hitter that I haven't seen hit any home runs yet. So can he hit home runs? I'm not sure. You look at Daniel Thomas. He's supposed to be that big physical presence out of Kansas State. But is he really that physical? I'm not sure. Sometimes I get mad at Daniel Thomas because I look to him to be more physical. There are yards there to be had. And sometimes I feel like he didn't get all the yards that are there. I don't know if it's hesitation or indecision or I don't know what it is. Sometimes I just feel like this play was blocked to get 17 yards and he only gets 10. That frustrates me. Then I look at a guy like Mike Gillespie and I say to myself, he does everything well, but nothing great. He's a big back. We're talking about 5'11", 210, 215 pounds. So he's solidly built. He's a 4.5 40 guy, so he's not extremely fast. He's not slow either. You give this guy the corner, he can make a guy miss and run down the sideline. Maybe not score, but he can get you a 54-yard run. But he's not the home run hitter, but he's not extremely slow. He's not afraid to block and pass pro, but he's not the greatest at it either. He tips his hand as to what he wants to do, whether he wants to cut or he's going to anchor. And so if you're at this level, you can't tip it off as to what you're going to do. If a guy knows you're going to cut him, he'll leap over you and get to the quarterback. Or he'll leap over you and get his hands on the football. So you can't be quick to decide on what you're going to do. You have to decide it at the last second and make sure you don't tip your hand as to what you're doing in pass pro. Also, he can catch the football out of the backfield. But I just don't know if he's going to be good enough to get carries on the field. I think the Dolphins want Daniel Thomas to work out. They want him to work out. So they're going to give him every opportunity to work out. We know Lamar Miller is probably going to be the new Reggie Bush. He's going to be your new bell cow. So where are the carries going to come from Mike Gillespie? That's my question. Look, in this league, if you got 3 backs, they're going to find a way to get that guy in the game and get some carries. He just doesn't do anything great for me. Everything is done well. That's fine. It's a double for Mike Gillespie, running back out of Florida in the 5th round. So we go back to the board and look at these needs. You get Jelani Jenkins, linebacker out of Florida in the 4th round. You get Deion Sims, tight end out of Michigan State in the 4th round as well. And you look at that, Dolphins have met all their needs. And we're not done with the draft yet, so the Dolphins have done a really good job of getting areas of need and targeting them and making it happen in this draft. Okay, so now we go to the 5th round again, 2 picks later again, like you did in the 4th round, having 2 selections within 3 picks of each other. You go to the 5th round, 166th overall selection. This is a compensatory pick. You get the kicker out of Florida, so here we go again, at Florida again, shopping around that Florida store. A lot of items there that you like. You found a couple, tossed them in the cart, went to the checkout. This time, you came away with the kicker in Caleb Sturgis And look, I'll wrap this one up quick because it's a kicker. But we undervalue the kicker position sometimes in this league, whether it be punter, kicker, kickoff specialist, what may have you. These guys matter. And last year, Dan Carpenter, who used to be Dan the man for me, wasn't the man at the most inopportune times. And look, he only missed 5 kicks. But those were some critical and crucial kicks that he missed. The first couple that come to my mind was the Jets game early on in the season. You're a struggling football team. You're trying to find your way. You want to win a game. You're early in the season. You got the Jets on the ropes. The Jets look like a good team early on in the season. You're thinking, hey, let's steal one from these guys at home. You get them. You've got them. And Dan doesn't come through for you twice in that game. And you lose to the Jets in a game that you should have won. I can't have that. And you know what? I can't have it. And Dan has been really good. And that's the problem I have, is that Dan has been really consistent. But in this league, for kickers, it's Janet Jackson. What have you done for me lately? Ooh, yeah. So, what has Dan Carpenter done for you lately? I guess not enough, because you draft Khalif Sturgis, kicker out of Florida. And anytime you draft a kicker, that guy is going to get every opportunity to make this roster. So, Dan can still win this job, but he's going to have to really outkick Khalif Sturgis in the preseason, in the camps, because they're going to give every opportunity to Khalif Sturgis to win this job. And he got better as a kicker over time at Florida. He started out in 2011 with 17% of his kickoffs being touchbacks. That jumped up to 45% in 2012. So he's consistently kicking it out of the end zone. Dan Carpenter does a great job of doing that as well. But I think Carpenter still has the bigger leg out of the two kickers. This guy made a 56-yarder last year against Georgia, so he did it against some stiff competition in the SEC. Sometimes his kicks come out a little low, but look, I don't care about the trajectory of kicks. All I want you to do is do your job. And if you kick a line drive kick that gets out of the end zone, you've done your job. If you kick a line drive 55-yarder that gets through the uprights, you've done your job. Now, look, it does matter when you kick field goals, because we've got big 6'7", 6'8" guys like Calais Campbell leaping up, putting his arms up, blocking kicks like Red Bryant in Seattle as well. And so you can't come out with line drive kicks. You got to be able to get the ball in the air, off the ground, and give it a chance. Sometimes he doesn't do that, but Dan Carpenter's in trouble. Because when you spend a draft pick, and this is a 5th rounder at that, on a kicker, you expect that kicker to make the roster. Dan Carpenter could be in some trouble. It's a double for Khalif Sturgis, kicker out of Florida, in the 5th round at pick 166. Good luck to Dan Carpenter, because I really like him. And even if he doesn't keep on this Dolphins roster, he'll find work somewhere else, because I think he's a really good kicker. But at one point in the season last year, Dan Carpenter had lost his confidence, and it lost you a ball game or two, and you can't afford to have that happen in the National Football League. So we wrap up this draft in the 7th round with the 250th pick overall, another compensatory pick. It's the safety out of Arkansas State, Don Jones. And for me, he's a long shot to make this roster. We're talking about an ex-running back that converted to safety in college. And he didn't make the conversion right away. He made it in his 2nd season in college and was solid, but he's got a lot of learning to do. He's extremely raw. He's fast. We're talking about a 4'4", 40 guy that's 5'11" at the safety position. Not overly big, about 195 pounds. So could put on some more weight, but he's still learning the nuances of the safety position. And he's got a long way to go, because he doesn't have a lot of experience playing on the defensive side of football. He doesn't have a lot of experience playing at the safety position. And he's got a lot to learn. So being a 7th round selection, coming from a small school, making a transition to a position that you haven't played for that long, kind of light in the pants. There's a lot of things working against Don Jones right now. But if he can fill out that frame, and look, the speed is always great, because that's something you can't teach. You can't teach 4.4 speed. Either you got it or you don't. And Don Jones has it. So from that standpoint, they can teach him the science and the art to playing the safety position at the National Football League level. And look, this guy might be converted to cornerback for all we know. I mean, when you run 4.40, anything's possible. Anything is possible! In the great words of Kevin Garnett, anything's possible when you're that fast. And at 5'11", not the biggest guy at the safety position, so I can see the Dolphins experimenting with this guy, but at the end of the day, it's bad enough he already doesn't know how to play the safety position that well. I'd hate to send this guy to another position and ask him to make the conversion. Already being a 7th round pick, he's already behind the 8 ball. I'd hate to see this guy have to yet make another conversion to a different position and be a fish out of water, even more so than he already is. It's going to be a long shot for Don Jones to crack this roster as a converted running back to safety. But with that kind of speed, I just said it, anything is possible. So we'll see how Don Jones fares out. But it's a single for me in the 7th round, safety out of Arkansas State. Don Jones is a single that's going to wrap up the Dolphins draft. And you look at the draft board and the needs have been met. Dolphins cleaned that up quickly. So that's a beautiful thing. You look at the draft itself, home run for Jordan in the 1st round, a triple for Taylor and Thomas in the 2nd and 3rd rounds, respectively. You look at Will Davis, a cornerback from Utah State. To me, that's a double. Jelani Jenkins is a double in the 4th round. So is Deion Sims, tight end out of Michigan State in the 4th round. Gillespie, running back out of Florida, is a double for me as well. So is Khalif Sturgis, your kicker that you got out of Florida in the 5th round. And Don Jones is the only single for me in this draft in the 7th round, a small school safety out of Arkansas State who was converting from running back to safety. The Dolphins had a really good draft. And I think Jeff Ireland did a great job of getting parts that fit what this Dolphins team is trying to do. It's a new day. It's a new identity in Miami. This team wants to be faster, more athletic on both sides of the football. They want to be more explosive on offense while having the ability to get turnovers and give the football back to the offense. You see that in these corners that were selected. You add Brent Grimes to that mix, you've got guys that can play football. I love Rashad Jones at the safety position, and so I think that it looks really good. This draft is a really good draft. It's a double. When it's all said and done, it's a solid double for the Dolphins. And the move to get Deion Jordan for me highlighted this draft because that was a ballsy move. That took a lot of brass, a lot of cojones to go up and do that. When everybody thought that was going to be a tackle, it was the defensive end, the game-changing defensive end, Deion Jordan. And so you get 2 corners, you get a guard in Thomas who could play tackle, but I think he's going to be a guard. You get Sims. If I had to pick one player out of this draft that I say could be a sleeper, that could actually be a lot better for you than many people might think, it could be Deion Sims, the tight end out of Michigan State, because he's going to fill in that Anthony Fasano role for you, but I think he can fill it in even better because he's more athletically gifted than Anthony Fasano. And so I look for Deion Sims to be a guy that maybe not initially in 2013, but in 2014 or down the road could be a guy that could step in and play some really good football for you at the tight end position. And so that's going to do it for the Miami Dolphins. I think they had a really solid draft. Jeff Ireland stuck his foot in this one, and now he's got to have these guys go out and produce because if not, look, the Dolphins are tired of playing second fiddle to the Patriots. You want a new stadium. You got to win. If you want new things, you want new toys, you got to win. And you got to beat the Patriots. And I think Stephen Ross and the brass in Miami, they're tired of losing. They're tired of losing to the Patriots. They're tired of being second fiddle. You got to win. Jeff Ireland realizes that. In this draft and the offseason, I think are huge indicators that he understands that I got to get it done. And so that's going to do it for the Miami Dolphins in the 2013 NFL Draft wrap-up.
Draft Zone.